The desperate Plaith emergency alarms screamed through the crystal halls of the Zephyrian council chambers as another star system vanished from the galactic map. Council leader Thyra watched her homeworld's beautiful crystalline walls vibrate. With each pulse of the warning system, their normally peaceful blue glow now flashing angry red. "Report," she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of 1,000 years of peaceful leadership. Military Advisor Cross stepped forward, his insectoid features twisted with concern. "The Kepler 442 system has gone completely dark." "That's 15. Systems consumed in 3 standard months. The Void Swarm shows no signs of slowing." Communication Officer Zara floated in her mobility tank, her aquatic form rippling with distress. Through her telepathic abilities, she could sense the terror spreading across the galaxy. "The death count is approaching 12 billion souls. Entire civilizations are fleeing toward the galactic edge." Thyra's crystalline form dimmed with grief. The Zephyrian Confederation had stood for millennia as a beacon of peace and cooperation among the stars. Their world of Zephyr Prime was a paradise of crystal cities and floating gardens, where conflict was resolved through meditation and understanding. Violence was so foreign to their nature that they had no words for warfare in their ancient language. "What? Of the Draknari battle fleets?" Thyra asked, though she already knew the answer. "Destroyed," Cross replied, his mandibles clicking nervously. "The Draknari threw everything they had at the swarm. 50,000 ships, the largest military force in known space. The Void Swarm consumed them in 6 hours and used their own weapons against the next system. The Void Swarm was unlike anything the galaxy had ever faced. They appeared as massive geometric shapes, each one the size of a moon, covered in writhing mechanical tentacles that could strip a planet bare in days. They consumed matter and energy indiscriminately, growing stronger with each system they devoured. Worse, they learned from every encounter, adapting their tactics and defenses to counter any strategy used against them. The Altarian science vessels tried to find a weakness," Zara reported, her telepathic voice carrying the echo of 1,000 dying screams. "They managed to scan one of the swarm units before being consumed. The preliminary data suggests these machines are older than our oldest civilizations. They've been dormant in the void between galaxies for millions of years." "Then what woke them?" Thyra asked. "Unknown, but their behavior suggests they're following some kind of ancient programming. They're not just consuming resources randomly. They're targeting the most populated systems first, as if they're trying to eliminate potential threats to their expansion." The council chamber fell silent except for the distant wail of sirens. 3 more species had already abandoned their homeworlds, loading their populations onto generation ships and fleeing toward the galactic rim. The proud Altarians, who had built cities in the hearts of stars, were now refugees. The Kethani, master builders who had connected entire solar systems with their architectural marvels, had watched their greatest works be consumed in hours. "We need options," Thyra said, though her tone suggested she already knew they had none. "The hegemony is building a fortress line at the galactic core," Cross offered weakly. "They're hoping to make a stand there. The hegemony has never faced anything like this," Zara replied. "Their conventional shields and weapons have proven useless. The swarm simply adapts to whatever they throw at it." Old Counselor Vex, the eldest member of their assembly, slowly approached the central podium. His ancient form was bent with age, but his mind remained sharp. "There is one option we haven't discussed." The chamber grew quiet. Vex rarely spoke in council, but when he did, his words carried the weight of centuries. "The Forbidden's archives," he said simply. Thyra's crystalline form flickered with surprise. "The Forbidden's archives haven't been opened in over a century. The knowledge contained there was sealed for good reason." "These are not normal times," Vex replied. "The archives contain records of first contact with over 10,000 species. Some of those contacts were ... less than peaceful. You're suggesting we seek help from a violent species? Cross's voice carried disbelief. The Confederation has sworn to never again make contact with militaristic civilizations. The Confederation may not survive to honor that oath, Vex said grimly. The debate that followed would have been impossible just months earlier. The Zephyrian Confederation prided itself on peaceful resolution of conflicts. Their greatest achievement was the Harmony Accords, a treaty that had brought peace to over 300 systems. Violence was so antithetical to their nature that they had no standing military, relying instead on diplomatic solutions and the protection of allied species. But those allies were now dead or fleeing, and diplomacy meant nothing to machines that consumed entire worlds. Show us the archives, Thyra finally commanded. The forbidden archives materialized as a holographic display in the center of the chamber. Records of failed first contacts, violent encounters, and species deemed too dangerous for peaceful coexistence. Most were marked with red warnings. Quarantined. Avoid at all costs. Extinction threat. Vex navigated through the data with practiced ease. Here, he said, highlighting a single entry. Designation: Terra. Classification: Class 15 Deathworld. Species: Human. Status: Quarantined by unanimous council vote. Standard year 2387. The file was massive, filled with reports from the only successful diplomatic mission to make contact with the humans. Thyra read through the initial reports, her crystalline form growing dimmer with each paragraph. Gravity twice standard normal, she read aloud. Atmospheric composition toxic to most carbon-based life. Weather patterns include cyclonic storms capable of leveling cities, seismic activity that can split continents, and temperature variations that would kill most species within hours. The planet itself is trying to kill everything on it, Cross observed. How did anything evolve there? That's not the concerning part, Zara said, her telepathic voice carrying fear. Look at the behavioral analysis. The human behavioral profile was unlike anything in the Confederation's experience. The species had evolved as persistence hunters, capable of tracking prey across vast distances. They were tool users who had weaponized everything from fire to the atom. Their history was marked by constant warfare, with conflicts ranging from tribal disputes to global wars that had nearly destroyed their civilization multiple times. They've been fighting for their entire evolutionary history, Vex explained. Their planet shaped them into survivors, but they shaped themselves into warriors. The diplomatic team reported the humans maintained standing armies even during peacetime, Thyra read. They study warfare as a science and prepare for conflicts that may never come. Their children play games that simulate combat scenarios. This is madness, Cross said. We're considering asking for help from a species that weaponizes its own offspring. The alternative is extinction, Vex replied simply. The debate continued for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. The Void Swarm was days away from reaching the core systems where trillions of beings lived in peace. Every conventional option had failed. The galaxy's greatest military forces had been consumed or scattered. We vote, Thyra announced. All in favor of making contact with the humans? The vote was closer than anyone expected. Fear of the unknown balanced against the certainty of extinction. In the end, desperation won. The motion passes. We will attempt to contact the humans. The transmission took 3 days to reach Earth. The message was simple, translated into the crude human language by the Confederation's best linguists. We are dying. Ancient machines consume our worlds. We have tried everything. We need help. The response came back within hours, broadcast on multiple frequencies in perfect Zephyrian. Message received and understood. We are coming. Hold your positions. Earth. Defense fleet departing in 72 hours. The council chamber erupted in confused discussion. How had the humans learned their language so quickly? How could they mobilize a fleet in just 3 days when the Confederation's own emergency protocols took weeks to implement? There's something else, Zara announced, her telepathic abilities picking up additional transmissions. They're not just sending a single ship or a small squadron. I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout their solar system. They're mobilizing everything. How many ships? Thyra asked. Zara's form rippled with disbelief. I count over 200 distinct signatures. Some of them are massive, larger than anything in our databases. 200 ships? Cross's voice cracked. The Draknari fleet that was destroyed had 50,000 ships. These readings are different, Zara replied. The energy signatures don't match any known propulsion system. And the ships themselves, they're not built like anything we've seen. They're denser, heavier, covered in what appears to be armor. Plating. Old Vex studied the incoming data with growing interest. They're not exploration vessels or cargo ships. These are built for one purpose. What purpose? Thyra asked, though she already suspected the answer. War, Vex replied. Humans are bringing their entire military fleet. The implications were staggering. The Confederation had made contact with hundreds of species, but none had ever mobilized their entire military in response to a distress call from strangers. Most species would have asked for payment, territorial, concessions, or detailed explanations. The humans had simply said they were coming. How long until they arrive? Thyra asked. Unknown, Zara replied. Their propulsion systems are unlike anything in our databases. They could arrive in days or weeks. As if summoned by her words, new alarms began sounding throughout the station. Long-range sensors had detected something massive approaching from the direction of the Sol system. Contact in 18 hours, the sensor operator announced. Multiple large objects traveling at incredible speed. Thyra felt a chill run through her crystalline form. In 18 hours, they would meet the species that had been quarantined for being too dangerous to contact. A species that had evolved on a world where everything tried to kill them, that had turned warfare into a science, that had somehow learned their language in hours and mobilized a fleet in days. Prepare the station for first contact, she commanded, and pray to whatever gods still listen that we haven't made a terrible mistake. The war was coming, and they had invited the Predators to join the Hunt. Asterisk, the Deathworlder solution. Human fleet emerged from hyperspace like a gathering storm. Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching as 200 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Each vessel was a testament to humanity's brutal evolution as a species. Where alien ships were sleek and graceful, human ships were angular and aggressive, covered in armor, plating and bristling with weapons that had no names in the peaceful languages of the Confederation. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian station, reported Communications Officer Park, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. Put them through, Chun commanded. At 52, she had commanded fleets in this Mars Rebellion, the Titan Uprising, and the brutal campaign against the AI Collective. She had never lost a battle, but she had also never fought to save an entire galaxy. The main screen flickered to life, showing a crystalline being that seemed to be made of living gemstone. Council Leader Thyra's form pulsed with nervous energy as she took in the sight of the human fleet. I am Admiral Sarah Chun of the United Earth Defense Fleet, Chun announced. We received your distress call. Show us the enemy. The directness of the human approach clearly startled the Zephyrian leader. Admiral Chun, we are grateful for your response, but perhaps we should discuss terms of engagement, compensation protocols, and later. Chun cut her off. People are dying. Show us the enemy. The tactical display that followed painted a picture of systematic extinction. The void swarm moved through space like a plague, consuming everything in its path. The mechanical entities showed no pattern of behavior that suggested intelligence as the Confederation understood it. They simply arrived, consumed, and moved. On. They adapt to every weapon system we use against them, Thyra explained. Energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, even nuclear devices. They learn from each encounter and modify their defenses accordingly. Captain Marcus Webb, commanding the destroyer UE's Relentless, studied the data with the eye of someone who had spent 20 years mining asteroids in the melt before joining the fleet. They're not adapting, he said over the comm. They're evolving. Each encounter makes them stronger. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, pulled up additional scans from her position aboard the science vessel UE's Darwin. The energy signatures suggest they're not just consuming matter, they're consuming information. Every ship they destroy, every defensive system they encounter, becomes part of their collective knowledge. Chun nodded grimly. It's not learning, it's assimilation. They're turning every victory against them into a defeat. Then how do we fight them? Thyra asked. We don't fight them, Chun replied. We kill them. The distinction was lost on the peaceful aliens, but it was fundamental. To human military doctrine, fighting implied rules, restraint, the possibility of negotiation. Killing was absolute. The Draknari battle fleet tried to kill them, Cross interjected. 50,000 ships, the most advanced military force in the galaxy. They were destroyed. In hours, the Draknari fought like civilized beings, John said. They used conventional tactics, established formations, predictable strategies. They gave the swarm time to adapt. What are you suggesting? Thera asked. Chaos, John replied simply. The one thing machines can't adapt to is randomness. We don't give them time to learn. We hit them with everything at once, and we keep changing our approach so fast they can't keep up. The human fleet had been designed for exactly this kind of warfare. Where most species built ships for specific roles, humans built them for adaptability. The destroyer UES Relentless could serve as a gunship, a ramming vessel, or a boarding platform, depending on the mission. The carrier U's Lexington could launch fighters, deploy orbital bombardment platforms, or serve as a mobile command center. Admiral, Captain Webb reported, we're detecting void swarm units in the Centauri system. Looks like they're stripping. The fourth planet. Perfect, Chun said, her voice carrying the cold satisfaction of a predator spotting prey. All ships, prepare for engagement. We're going to teach these machines what happens when they threaten our friends. The human fleet moved toward the Centauri system like a pack of wolves. They didn't maintain formation like civilized military forces. Instead, they spread out in seemingly random patterns, approaching from multiple vectors at different speeds. To the watching aliens, it looked like chaos dot to the humans. It was poetry. The void swarm detected the approaching fleet and began to adapt their formations, repositioning their massive geometric forms to counter the expected attack. They had learned from their encounters with the Draknari, the Altarian science vessels, and dozens of other species. They knew how civilized beings fought. They had never encountered humans. The first wave of attack came from Captain Webb's destroyer group. Instead of engaging the swarm directly, they targeted the asteroid field surrounding the system's fourth planet. Nuclear charges detonated throughout the field, accelerating millions of tons of rock and metal toward the swarm units at relativistic speeds. Impact in 30 seconds, Webb reported. Swarm units are attempting to adapt their shields to kinetic. Bombardment. Phase 2, Chun commanded. The human fighters launched from their carriers not toward the swarm, but toward the dying planet below. They dropped seismic charges into the planet's core, destabilizing the tectonic plates. The planet began to tear itself apart, launching continent-sized chunks of matter into space. "The humans are destroying the planet," Thera gasped from her observation post. "We're weaponizing it," Shun corrected. "The swarm wants to consume matter. We're giving them more than they can handle." A void swarm found itself caught between the accelerated asteroid field and the exploding planet. Their adaptive shields, designed to counter directed energy weapons, were overwhelmed by the sheer volume of matter being hurled at them. Several of the smaller swarm units were destroyed outright, their geometric forms shattered by impacts they couldn't absorb, but the swarm was learning. The surviving units began to merge together, forming larger configurations that could better withstand the bombardment. They adapted their tactics, using the smaller fragments of destroyed units as armor against the continuing assault. "They're adapting faster than projected," Dr. Vasquez reported. "We have maybe 10 minutes before they counter our current strategy." "Then we change strategies," John said. "Captain Webb, initiate ramming procedures." The destroyer UE's relentless. Turned toward the largest swarm unit, its engines pushing it to maximum velocity. The ship was designed to survive impacts that would destroy most vessels. Its hull reinforced with materials forged in the depths of Jupiter's crushing atmosphere. "Admiral, you're not seriously ordering a ramming attack," Thera protested. "I'm ordering whatever it takes to win," Shun replied. The Relentless struck the swarm unit at nearly a quarter of light speed. The impact was visible from the Zephyrian observation post as a flash of light that briefly outshone the system's star. When the radiation cleared, both the destroyer and the swarm unit were gone. "Captain Webb, report," Chun called. "Still here, Admiral." Webb's voice crackled over. "The comm. Punch through successful. We're inside their formation now." The Relentless had punched completely through the swarm unit, its armored hull surviving the impact. Now it was inside the enemy formation, its weapons targeting the swarm's command and control systems at point-blank range. "All units, execute Pattern Omega," Chun commanded. The remaining human ships converged on the swarm from every direction, no longer trying to maintain any semblance of formation. Some ships ramming enemy units, others launching boarding parties, still others detonating nuclear warheads in close proximity to their own positions. It was controlled chaos, a symphony of destruction that no computer could predict or counter. Dr. Vasquez monitored the battle from her science vessel, watching as the Void Swarm's adaptive capabilities were overwhelmed by the sheer unpredictability of human tactics. "They can't keep up," she reported. "Every time they start to adapt to one strategy, we switch to something completely different." But the battle was taking its toll. The U's Valiant exploded as it rammed a swarm unit, taking 300 crew members with it. The carrier UE's Yorktown was consumed by mechanical tentacles, its fighters scattered across space. The destroyer UE's Defiant detonated its reactor core to prevent capture, vaporizing itself and 2 swarm units in the process. "Admiral, we're losing too many ships," Captain Rodriguez reported from the cruiser UES Constitution. "Victory has a price," Chun replied. "The question is whether we're willing to pay it." The answer came from across the human fleet. Every ship, every crew member, every human warrior who had answered the call for help. They had come to save strangers, to fight an enemy they had never encountered, to risk everything for beings they had never met. "All ships final push," Chun commanded. "Target the command nexus, whatever it costs." The human fleet's surviving ships formed a spearhead aimed at the heart of the swarm formation. The U's Indomitable led the charge, its armor scarred and its weapons blazing. Behind it came the remnants of humanity's greatest military achievement. Ships and crews who had survived the worst their own species could throw at them, now united in defense of an entire galaxy. The Void Swarm's command nexus was a massive structure, larger than Earth's moon, covered in writhing mechanical tentacles that could strip a planet bare. It was the intelligence behind the swarm, the collective consciousness that had guided their expansion across the galaxy. All ships firing Solution Alpha, Chun commanded. Concentrate fire on the Nexus core. The combined firepower of the human fleet focused on a single point. Energy beams that could crack moons, kinetic projectiles that could shatter asteroids, and nuclear warheads that could sterilize continents. The Nexus began to crack under the assault, its mechanical surface showing signs of damage for the first time. But it wasn't enough. The Nexus was too large, too well defended. The swarm units were beginning to adapt to the human weapons, their shields strengthening with each passing moment. "Admiral," Dr. Vasquez called, "I'm detecting massive energy buildup in the Nexus core. They're preparing some kind of weapon." Chun studied the tactical display, calculating odds and possibilities. The Nexus was too strong for conventional weapons, but it had one weakness. It was a single point of failure. Destroy the Nexus, and the entire swarm would lose coordination. "All ships, withdraw to minimum safe distance," she commanded. "Admiral?" Captain Webb questioned. "The Indomitable is equipped with a Nova bomb," Chun explained. "We're going to ram the Nexus and detonate it at point-blank range." The Nova bomb was humanity's most terrible weapon, a device that could ignite a star and destroy entire solar systems. It had been carried by the Indomitable as a weapon of last resort, never intended to be used except in the most desperate circumstances. "Admiral, that's a suicide mission," Webb protested. "No," Chun replied, her voice carrying the weight of command. "It's a rescue mission. We came here to save lives. That's what we're going to do." The UES Indomitable turned toward the Nexus, its engines pushing it to maximum velocity. The ship had been humanity's greatest achievement, a kilometer-long monument to their species' determination to survive. Now it would be their greatest sacrifice. "All ships, this is Admiral Chun," she broadcast to the fleet. "It has been an honor serving with you. Tell the galaxy that humanity keeps its promises." The Indomitable struck the Nexus at maximum velocity, its armored hull punching deep into the mechanical structure. The Nova bomb detonated 3 seconds later, creating a miniature star in the heart of the swarm command center. The explosion was visible from the Zephyrian observation post as a brief, brilliant star that illuminated the entire system. When the light faded, the Nexus was gone, and with it, the coordinated intelligence that had guided the Void Swarm. Across the galaxy, the remaining swarm units suddenly stopped moving. Without their command structure, they reverted to simple machines, floating harmlessly in space until they powered down completely. "The swarm is destroyed," Thyra announced, her crystalline form flickering with amazement. "The threat is ended." Captain Webb, now the senior human officer, responded from the bridge of the UES Relentless. "Admiral Chun sends her regards. The galaxy is safe." In the days that followed, as the surviving human ships prepared to return to Earth, the Zephyrian Council tried to understand what they had witnessed. The humans had lost 37 ships and over 8,000 crew members. They had sacrificed their finest admiral and their most advanced warship. They had done it all for strangers, asking nothing in return. "Why?" Thyra asked Webb during the farewell ceremony. "Why did you risk everything for us?" Webb smiled, his scarred face carrying the weight of battles fought and friends lost. "Because you asked for help. Where humans come from, that's enough." As the human fleet departed, leaving the galaxy in peace, the Zephyrian Council updated their records. The entry for Terra was changed from quarantined to ally. The galaxy was safe, protected by the children of a death world who had chosen to be guardians rather than conquerors. And in the depths of space, The legend of the human fleet spread from system to system, a reminder that sometimes the most unlikely heroes come from the most unlikely places. The Deathworlders had answered the call, and the galaxy was forever changed.